Hi, it's me again. Just a quick one, because one of the comments I get a lot from people who defend the BBC, and if you want to defend the BBC, that's okay. You're allowed to like what you like. I don't like it, I'm not going to pay for it. If you like it, you pay for it, it's fine. One of their main defences is some of the great programming that the BBC has provided over the years we wouldn't have had if it wasn't for the licence fee, like Doctor Who, for instance. Well, let me just set the record straight a bit with you, Doctor Who, whilst using this article here. Look. Major TV licence fee review begins as Doctor Who boss says end of BBC on its way. Okay, Doctor Who boss, let's just talk about Doctor Who, because that is one of the things people bring up to me. They say, we wouldn't have had, I love Doctor Who and we wouldn't have had it if it wasn't for the BBC. In the early days, maybe. Same for Top Gear. In the early days, maybe. But the rights and the production of Doctor Who and things like Top Gear aren't done by the BBC that you pay your licence fee to. It is not done by them. It's done by BBC Studios, which is a commercial company trading under the BBC. God knows how that's allowed to happen, I don't know. But they're a commercial business. They make these shows and sell them all around the world. They just happen to also sell them to the BBC that you pay your licence fee to. So BBC Studios gets your licence fee money in return for Doctor Who, Top Gear, stuff like that. Even the Attenborough stuff is made by BBC Studios, not by the BBC. So if the BBC went belly up, went bankrupt, they closed it down, these shows would not disappear. They'd just be bought by somebody else because they're popular shows. It just so happens the BBC buy them from BBC Studios. But Netflix has had Doctor Who before, and now we have this here, look. It comes after the BBC made a decision to co-produce the series of the legendary sci-fi show, bringing in Disney Plus for funding reasons, reportedly putting £100 million into production. Whilst the BBC have retained the rights to the show, Disney Plus will be the exclusive streamer of the show in the United States of America. So if you're a BritBox subscriber, because the Yanks like a bit of BritBox, mate, you ain't watching Doctor Who on there anymore. BBC show, one of the most famous BBC shows of all time, you can't get on BritBox International in the States, which is owned by BBC Studios. But now Disney Plus have the rights to have it in America for £100 million put into production. Nothing to do with the BBC here. That deal still would have happened with or without the BBC. 100%. On the partnership, BBC boss Tim Davies said it was a move for the show to prepare for life outside of the Beeb. It doesn't belong to the Beeb. And Tim Davies is the boss of the BBC pay licence fee to. He used to be the boss of BBC Studios. He isn't anymore. And Doctor Who isn't part of the Beeb. It's a commercial product. Before the BBC, approached me, I had already said in various interviews, I think Doctor Who would have to become a co-production. There's no way the BBC is going to fund that, he said. You've got to look into the long-term end at the BBC, which is somehow surely undoubtedly on its way in some shape or form. Is Doctor Who going to die then? No, you've got to prepare for that kind of stuff. So, he used to be in charge of BBC Studios, which has Doctor Who. So he knows more about this than I do. And he's saying there's no way the BBC are going to fund that. One of the most classic BBC shows that people think is the history of the BBC. It's not. The BBC aren't going to fund that. Instead, they're going to fund tat like Mrs. Brown's Boys or Race Around the World. I don't know. No idea. And you've got to look at the long term at the end of the BBC, which is somehow surely undoubtedly on its way in some... Okay, Tim, you're going to fight to the death for it, I'm sure. Is Doctor Who going to die then? No, you've got to prepare for that kind of stuff. He knows that it's just a product made by a company, and if the BBC didn't spend your licence fees on buying it to show, someone else would. It would go to 4, it would go to 5, it would go to Sky, it would go to Netflix, whatever. The BBC does not own the rights to the big shows. They don't own the rights to Attenborough. They don't own the rights to Top Gear, which made studios a lot of money. They don't own the rights to Doctor Who, which made BBC Studios a lot of money. Just think of the merchandising for Doctor Who, all the toys and books and everything that come out every year. None of that money goes to the BBC. It all goes to BBC Studios, which is commercial. And yet you've got the BBC over here saying, give us £169.50 a year, please. We're skint. So I just wanted to cover that quick because that is one of the defences I get. The other defence I get for why people defend the licence fee is local radio, but yeah, that's all gone to shit. I don't want it. Let me know what you think about all this. If you want to read this whole article, it's quite big actually. I'll put a link to it down in the description below. You can go and have a look at it. While you're down there doing that, leave your comment, hit all the buttons and everything as well. Because if you do that, hopefully I'll see you in another video again soon, won't I? Ta-da.